The day the Apache saved the child began with dust hanging low over the frontier road, the kind of dust that clung to breath and memory alike. Wagons had passed earlier, leaving ruts like open scars, and the sun pressed down as if it wanted to test every living thing. From the ridge above the road, Red Hawk watched the land with eyes trained by years of war and silence. He was known across the territory as an Apache warrior who moved like shadow and struck like thunder. Settlers feared his name. Soldiers hunted him. Stories followed him like smoke, yet on that day, fate waited for him in the smallest form imaginable. Below the ridge, a horse lay twisted and still, its harness snapped. Nearby, a wagon wheel spun slowly, creaking with each turn. The air carried a thin cry, weak but sharp enough to cut through the wind. Red Hawk froze. Cries like that did not belong to the desert. They belonged to life still fighting to stay. He scanned the ground, his hand already near his blade, his senses alive with caution.
Ow.
This land had taught him that pity could kill as quickly as a bullet. He moved downhill with care, boots silent on stone. As he reached the wreck, he saw the truth. A child lay half covered by a torn blanket, face red from sun and fear. The boy could not have been more than 3 winters old. His small hands clawed. At the dirt, his lips cracked, his eyes wide with terror. There were no adults in sight, no mother calling, no father riding back. Only the endless frontier and a child left behind. Red Hawk felt something tighten in his chest, a feeling he had buried long ago. He told himself to turn away. This was not his war. This was not his blood. Old West had taught him harsh rules. Mercy brought trouble. Trouble brought death. Yet his feet would not move back. Instead, he knelt, casting a shadow over the child. The boy stopped crying and stared up at him. Fear flickered, then confusion. Red Hawk's face was hard, carved by sun and battle, his hair bound with leather, his eyes dark as storm clouds. To the child, he must have looked like a monster from whispered tales. The boy whimpered, then reached out, fingers brushing the fringe of Red Hawk's sleeve. That touch struck deeper than any knife. Red Hawk inhaled sharply. Memories stirred, unwanted and dangerous. A woman's voice, soft but strong. A night-long past, hidden from the world. A promise broken by war and pride. He pushed the thoughts aside. This child was nothing to him, just another lost soul on a cruel road. Still, he checked the boy quickly. No broken bones, weak from thirst, sunburned but alive. Red Hawk lifted him with surprising gentleness, settling the child against his chest. The boy clung to him as if he already knew safety when he felt it. Red Hawk frowned at that, unsettled by how natural it felt. He carried the child into the shade of a lone cottonwood. From his pouch, he poured water into his palm and let the boy drink slowly. Each swallow eased the tightness in Red Hawk's chest, though he did not know why. When the child finished, he leaned his head against Red Hawk's shoulder and slept. Trusting, without question, Red Hawk stood there longer than he meant to, the desert quiet around them. He knew others would come, settlers, soldiers. Any of them would kill him on sight and take the child without care. The thought burned like fire. He made a choice that would echo far beyond that day by nightfall. Red Hawk reached a hidden camp near the canyon where Stone Bear waited. Stone Bear was older, broader, his hair streaked with gray, his wisdom earned through loss. When he saw the child, his eyes narrowed, then softened. "You bring danger, Stone?" Bear said quietly. Red Hawk nodded. "I found him alone, Stone." Bear studied the boy's face, the curve of his brow, the set of his jaw, even in sleep. Something passed across the elder's expression, something he did not speak aloud. "The spirits move in strange ways," he murmured. "They decided to keep the child hidden until they could return him to his people." That was the plan, simple and clean. Yet nothing stayed simple for long. As days passed, the boy grew stronger. He laughed dizzily. He followed Red Hawk everywhere, copying his steps, gripping his finger with fierce loyalty. The camp began to call him Little Thunder, for the way his laugh rolled sudden and bright. Red Hawk told himself it was temporary. Still, he taught the boy small things: how to listen to the wind, how to respect fire, how to greet the morning. At night, when Little Thunder slept beside the fire, Red Hawk would watch him and feel that strange pull again, stronger now, like a truth trying to rise. Far from the canyon, another story stirred. Lone Willow, a woman with eyes as steady as the river, rode with purpose across the plains. She had survived loss that would have broken most souls. Her child had been taken by chaos and fire, vanished on a road that never gave back what it stole. She followed rumors now, whispers of an Apache warrior seen with a child. Each whisper cut and healed her at once. The frontier was alive with tension. Soldiers tracked Red Hawk's movements, eager for glory. Settlers spoke his name with fear and anger. None of them knew the full truth. None of them knew that blood ran deeper than borders, deeper than hate. One evening, as the sky burned red with sunset, Stone Bear sat beside Red Hawk. "The boy carries your spirit," he said at last. Red Hawk stiffened. "He is not mine." Stone Bear did not argue. He simply watched the fire. The spirits already know what men try to deny. Red Hawk said nothing, but his heart pounded. Old memories pressed harder now. A night under stars, Lone Willow's strength. The choice he made to leave, believing war had no place for love. He had never known what became of her child. He had told himself it was better not to know. That night, Little Thunder woke crying from a dream. Red Hawk held him until he slept again, feeling a bond he could no longer explain away. Outside the camp, unseen eyes watched from the dark. Soldiers had found the trail. At dawn, the sound of distant hooves carried on the wind. Red Hawk rose, gripping his weapon, the child still asleep in his arms. Stone Bear met his gaze, understanding without words. The past had caught up with them. Truth stood close now, sharp and unavoidable. Red Hawk looked down at the boy's face, at the familiar shape of his eyes, at the way his small hand curled like it belonged there. A question formed in his mind, terrifying in its weight. What if the life he saved was never a stranger at all? As the first rifle crack echoed across the canyon, the answer waited, ready to change everything. The rifle crack echoed again, sharper this time, followed by shouts carried on the wind. Red Hawk shifted his stance, placing his body between the sound and the sleeping child. Little Thunder stirred, his small brow tightening as if he sensed danger even in dreams. Stone Bear moved with calm purpose, gathering what little they could carry. There was no panic in his hands, only the steady rhythm of a man who had survived too many pursuits to fear another. "They are close," Stone Bear said, his voice low. "Closer than yesterday." Red Hawk nodded. He did not answer because his thoughts were loud enough already. The canyon that had protected them now felt like a trap. He looked once more at the boy in his arms, then at the narrow path that led deeper into the rocks. Every choice from this moment on would leave marks that could never be erased. They moved. Before the soldiers crested the ridge, slipping into the maze of stone and shadow, Red Hawk knew every turn, every hidden ledge. This land had raised him, yet today it felt different, heavier, as if the ground itself knew the truth he was still refusing to speak. As they traveled, memories rose uninvited. Years ago, Red Hawk had been younger, driven by anger and duty. He had believed the world was simple then, divided cleanly between enemy and kin. That belief shattered the night he met Lone Willow. She had not feared him. She had spoken to him as an equal, her words sharp with honesty. She carried her own scars, her own strength. Their bond had grown quietly, hidden from a world that would never understand it. When war called him back, Red Hawk left without farewell. He told himself it was mercy. Love had no place in blood-soaked soil. He never knew she carried his child. Or perhaps he never allowed himself to ask. Little Thunder woke as the sun climbed higher. He looked around, confused but not afraid. When he saw Red Hawk, his face softened, and he pressed his cheek against the warrior's chest. That simple trust cut deeper than the rifle shot. Red Hawk adjusted his grip, careful and protective, though he still told himself this was temporary. Behind them, the soldiers spread out, their voices bouncing off stone. Captain Ironholt rode at their center, a man shaped by rules and ambition. He had sworn to bring Red Hawk in, dead or alive. To him, the Apache warrior was a symbol of unfinished conquest. The rumor of a stolen child only sharpened his resolve. Ironholt raised his hand, signaling silence. He dismounted, studying the ground. He's carrying weight, he said. Slow, but steady. He won't leave the boy. The word boy lingered in the air, heavy with assumption. None of them questioned who the child belonged to. In their minds, the answer was simple. Everything Red Hawk touched was taken by force. They could not imagine another truth as the day wore on. Red Hawk led Stone Bear and Little Thunder toward a high ledge overlooking a hidden spring. They paused there, catching breath. Stone Bear watched Red Hawk closely, his gaze thoughtful. You hold him like blood, Stone Bear said. Red Hawk looked away. I hold him like a promise I must return. Stone Bear's eyes reflected the sky. Promises are not always returned to where they began. Before Red Hawk could answer, a sound rose from below. A woman's voice, strained but steady, calling a name that made Red Hawk's heart stutter. My son. Lone Willow stepped into view at the edge of the canyon floor, dust clinging to her dress, her hair tied back with purpose. She was thinner than before, but her eyes burned brighter, fueled by hope and grief entwined. She had followed whispers, trusted instinct, and crossed land that tried to break her. Red Hawk froze. The world narrowed to the space between them. He felt the boy in his arms shift, then lift his head. Little Thunder looked down at Lone Willow, curiosity lighting his face. Something in him recognized her before thought could form. Lone Willow's breath caught. She took a step forward, then stopped when she saw Red Hawk fully. Old memories surged between them, unsaid and unfinished. She did not scream. She did not run. She simply held her ground, as strong as ever. You, she said softly. Red Hawk could not find words. Stone Bear stepped back, giving them space, his presence a quiet witness. Below them, soldiers moved closer, unseen but near enough to matter. I lost him on the road, Lone Willow continued, her voice trembling now. I searched everywhere. They told me he was gone. Red Hawk looked down at Little Thunder. The boy stared back at Lone Willow, then reached out, arms stretching toward her. Red Hawk's chest tightened. He lowered the child slightly, torn between instinct and fear, before either could move further. A shot rang out, striking stone near Lone Willow's feet. Shouts followed. Ironholt's voice cut through the canyon, commanding and cold. Step away from the Apache, he called. Bring the child to us. Lone Willow turned toward the sound, shielding her eyes. Fear flashed, but she did not retreat. She looked back up at Red Hawk, understanding dawning without explanation. They will kill you, said. They will try, Red Hawk replied. Little Thunder began to cry, sensing the tension. Red Hawk held him close again, rocking gently. Ironholt advanced into view, rifle lowered, but ready. His eyes locked on the child. That boy belongs with his own kind, Ironholt said. Give him here, Lone Willow stepped forward. He belongs with me. Ironholt hesitated, surprised. You know this savage? I know the father of my child, she said, the words falling like stones. The canyon went still. Red Hawk felt the truth land, undeniable now. His breath caught. Stone Bear closed his eyes briefly, as if he had known this moment would come. Ironholt laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. That's a fine story. It's the truth, Lone Willow said, her voice unwavering. Red Hawk looked at Little Thunder, the familiar line of his jaw, the strength already present in his small frame. The denial he had clung to shattered. He felt fear, wonder, and something like hope collide within him. More soldiers poured in behind Ironholt, weapons raised. The canyon filled with tension thick enough to taste. Red Hawk stood between two worlds, his past and his present crashing together. His son in his arms, his fate closing in. Stone Bear placed a hand on Red Hawk's shoulder. Now you know, he said quietly. Red Hawk met Lone Willow's gaze across the space between them. Words crowded his throat, but none escaped. Around them, the soldiers waited, the land holding its breath. The truth had surfaced, but it brought no peace. Only more danger, more questions, and a choice that would test everything Red Hawk believed. The canyon echoed with footsteps and whispered orders as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that stretched like the future itself. Uncertain and unforgiving, the canyon felt smaller as the soldiers closed in, their boots scraping stone, their shadows stretching toward Red Hawk like grasping hands. Ironholt raised his palm again, signaling restraint, though his eyes stayed fixed on the child. He was a man who believed control was strength, and today control felt close enough to touch. Red Hawk did not move. Little Thunder clutched his chest, fingers tangled in leather and fringe, his cries soft but urgent. Lone Willow stood below, caught between fear and resolve. She could see the truth now in Red Hawk's face, the struggle he no longer hid. It mirrored her own. The same conflict that had followed her across miles of dust and doubt. "Let the woman come closer," Ironholt said. Slowly, Stone Bear shifted his weight, watching the soldiers from the corner of his eye. He knew Ironholt's type. Men like him spoke of order while feeding chaos. "Words are easy," Stone Bear murmured to Red Hawk. "Chains come later." Lone Willow took a careful step forward, hands raised to show she carried no weapon. Her gaze never left Little Thunder. "He needs water," she said. "He needs his mother," Red Hawk swallowed. He remembered Lone Willow's strength, her refusal to bend. He also remembered leaving her behind, believing distance would spare them both. Now that distance had become a blade between them. Ironholt nodded to one of his men, a younger soldier with sharp eyes named Clay Boone. Boone moved to flank Lone Willow, his rifle low but ready. "We're taking the child into protection," Ironholt said. "That's the law." "What law steals a child from his parents?" Lone Willow demanded. Ironholt's jaw tightened. "The law that keeps order." Red Hawk finally spoke. "Your order burns villages and buries truth." The words carried across the canyon, steady and calm. Ironholt stiffened, unused to being challenged. "You've caused enough bloodshed," he replied. "Surrender now, and the boy lives." Little Thunder lifted his head at the sound of raised voices. His eyes moved between Red Hawk and Lone Willow, confusion clouding his small face. He reached out again, this time toward her. Red Hawk felt his grip tighten instinctively, fear and instinct wrestling within him. Stone Bear stepped forward slightly. "If you fire," he warned, "this land will remember." Ironholt ignored him. His attention was on Red Hawk, on the decision he wanted to force. Behind him, soldiers shifted, tension coiling tighter with each breath. Farther back along the ridge, unseen by most, another figure watched. Black Crow, a scout who had once ridden with Red Hawk before choosing a different path, studied the scene with conflicted eyes. He owed Red Hawk a life debt from years past. He also knew Ironholt rewarded loyalty well. The weight of that choice pressed on him now, below. Lone Willow's voice broke through the silence. "You saved him," she said to Red Hawk. "You did not know who he was, but you saved him." "That is the man I knew." Red Hawk met her eyes. "I did not save him to lose him." Ironholt's patience thinned. "Enough," he snapped. "Bring the child down." Clayboone stepped closer, his boots crunching stone. As he did, Little Thunder began to struggle, his cries louder now. Red Hawk felt a surge of anger, sharp and dangerous. The Apache warrior who had faced armies stirred within him. But now that fury was bound to something far more fragile. Stone Bear raised his staff, striking it once against the rock. The sound echoed like a warning drum. "You hunt a man," he said, "but you threaten a family." The word family hung heavy in the air. Some of the soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Even Ironholt paused, though only for a moment. From the ridge, Black Crow made his choice. He loosed a stone down the far side of the canyon, sending it tumbling noisily. Several soldiers turned at once, distracted by the sudden sound. Ironholt cursed under his breath, barking orders to check the perimeter. In that brief distraction, Lone Willow moved. She ran toward Red Hawk, faster than anyone expected, driven by instinct stronger than fear. Red Hawk stepped forward to meet her, lowering Little Thunder into her arms. For one heartbeat, mother and son were reunited. Their cries and breaths blending into something whole, Ironholt shouted, rage flaring. "Stop her." But the moment had already shifted the ground beneath them. Stone Bear moved to block the soldiers' line, his presence firm and unyielding. Red Hawk stood beside Lone Willow now, his body angled protectively, his eyes hard with resolve. Little Thunder clung to Lone Willow, his sobs easing as he felt her warmth. She pressed her forehead to his, whispering words meant only for him. Tears streaked her dusty cheeks, but her spine stayed straight. "You cannot run," Ironholt warned. "You will be hunted," Red Hawk answered quietly. "We already are." From the soldiers' ranks, murmurs rose. Not all of them believed in Ironholt's crusade. Some had families of their own, children waiting far away. The sight of a mother holding her child stirred doubts that orders could not erase. Clay Boone hesitated, his rifle wavering. Ironholt noticed and shot him a sharp look. "Hold your line," he commanded. Above them, clouds gathered, casting shadows that shifted like living things across the canyon walls. The air felt charged, as if the land itself leaned in to watch what would happen next. Stone Bear glanced at Red Hawk. "There will be no peace here," he said. Red Hawk knew it was true. Even if they escaped this moment, the truth was out. Lone Willow knew. Ironholt knew. The world would not let such a story rest easily. Black Crow slipped away from the ridge, his role unseen but not without cost. He knew Ironholt would notice the missing scout soon. Choices always demanded payment. Ironholt took a step forward again, raising his voice so it carried. "You stand accused," he declared, "of theft, of murder, of rebellion. Hand over the child, and the woman may walk away." Lone Willow laughed bitterly. "You speak of mercy like it is yours to give." Red Hawk felt Little Thunder's heartbeat against Lone Willow's chest, fast but steady. He thought of the years lost, the nights spent believing he was alone. Now that truth had found him, it came wrapped in danger and sacrifice. "We leave together," Red Hawk said. Ironholt's eyes narrowed. "Then you leave as fugitives." Stone Bear smiled faintly. They already were. The standoff stretched, every breath drawn tight with possibility. No one fired. No one moved. The canyon held them all, suspended between violence and restraint, as the first drops of rain began to fall. Darkening the dust, Red Hawk knew this moment was only the beginning. The conflict had deepened, roots tangled with blood and love and land. Somewhere ahead lay answers and consequences neither side was ready to face. With soldiers on one side, destiny on the other, and his son finally in his sight, Red Hawk stood ready to defend what fate had returned to him. The storm above gathered strength, promising that the next step would change everything. Rain fell harder now, hitting the canyon like a drum, turning dust to mud and making every step treacherous. Red Hawk crouched behind a jagged boulder. Lone Willow pressed to his side with Little Thunder clutched against her chest. The boy's small hands held her tightly, eyes wide as lightning split the sky above. Thunder rolled through the cliffs, shaking loose the tension that had been building for days. Yet the danger felt closer than ever. Soldiers moved carefully down the narrow paths, rifles raised, their boots sliding on slick stone. Ironholt's voice carried above the storm, sharp, demanding, full of anger. "We know you are here." He shouted, "Give us the child and no one gets hurt." Red Hawk's jaw tightened. Every instinct told him the soldiers would not leave quietly. Every instinct told him that the canyon would not protect them for long. He glanced at Stone Bear, whose face remained calm despite the growing chaos. Stone Bear's eyes flicked to the high ledge where the canyon narrowed, calculating escape routes, hiding places, and the least exposed paths. "They won't stop," Stone Bear said softly. "Not until they believe they have control." "What?" Red Hawk nodded. He looked down at Little Thunder, who was beginning to stir, fearful of the sounds and the dark shadows cast by rain and stone. He whispered a word only the boy could understand, a name that had belonged to his mother, to anchor him in safety. Little Thunder's small fingers tightened, as if he understood the weight of their world. Lone Willow drew a deep breath, her eyes burning with determination. "We can't outrun them forever," she said, voice steady but urgent. "We need to use what we know of this land." Red Hawk's mind raced. He remembered every path, every hidden cave, every ledge that could serve as a barrier. The canyon was a labyrinth to the untrained, but to him it was as familiar as his own heartbeat. Yet today, it felt alive with the threat of violence. Every stone a possible witness to what might come. Iron Holt's soldiers began to spread, forming a semicircle that tightened slowly, their rifles glinting in the rain. Holt himself moved closer, boots sliding in the mud. He stopped at the center, eyes locked on Red Hawk, burning with the certainty of a man who believed in his cause without question. "You cannot hide forever," Holt shouted. "Every choice you make only tightens the rope around your neck. Step forward now." Red Hawk felt the weight of the moment press against his chest. Every second counted. Every decision could cost them their lives. He thought of the boy, of Lone Willow, of the years lost, and the moments stolen. He had faced warriors before, faced armies before, but never like this, never with a child in his arms, never with love intertwined with danger. Stone Bear placed a hand on Red Hawk's shoulder. "There is one way," he said. "We can lead them to the old cliff path." Few know it still stands. Red Hawk's eyes narrowed. The cliff path was dangerous, exposed and carved along sheer rock faces. Any misstep could be fatal, yet it was their only chance. He nodded and whispered instructions to Lone Willow, who listened carefully, fear tempered by resolve. Little Thunder clung tightly, unaware of the full danger, but sensitive enough to feel the tension in their voices. The soldiers moved closer, and Holt's patience began to fray. "Time is yours," Holt called, "but only until my men grow tired of waiting." Red Hawk made the first move, slipping along the wet rocks, with Stone Bear and Lone Willow following, keeping Little Thunder shielded. Rain stung their faces, slick stone threatened every step, but speed and caution became their allies. Behind them, soldiers advanced, boots slipping, voices raising in frustration. At the cliff path, the world seemed to shrink. Narrow ledges jutted out over steep drops, wind and rain making each footfall dangerous. Red Hawk moved first, guiding Lone Willow and Little Thunder carefully. Stone Bear followed, staff ready to deflect or distract if needed. From below, Iron Holt's voice rose again, sharp as steel. "There, up the ledge. Don't let them escape." Red Hawk's heart pounded. He knew the soldiers were trained, but the canyon favored him. Every shadow, every curve of the rock was part of his advantage. Still, he could not underestimate Holt. Every second mattered. A soldier slipped on the wet stone. A shout echoing through the canyon. Holt cursed, motioning for the rest to follow. Red Hawk felt the tension coiling tighter. If they fell, all would be lost. If they hesitated, all would be lost. And yet, moving too fast could be just as deadly. Lone Willow gritted her teeth, pressing Little Thunder against her. "Hold on," she whispered. Her hands were steady, but her heart raced with the terror and the hope that they would survive. Red Hawk reached a narrow ledge where the canyon wall curved sharply. He paused, calculating, then took a running leap onto the next ledge, landing with precision despite the rain. Lone Willow followed, her long stride carrying her across, and Little Thunder squealed with a mixture of fear and thrill. Stone Bear went last, steady and cautious. Below them, the soldiers hesitated, realizing the cliff path was treacherous. Holt cursed again, his voice almost drowned by the storm. He could see Red Hawk and the others, but the path was narrow, unforgiving, and impossible for a large group to follow at speed. Red Hawk's chest heaved. Each heartbeat felt like a drum warning of coming danger. He looked back and saw Holt's frustration turning to anger, then to resolve. The captain would find a way, he knew. Holt always found a way. From the shadows above, Black Crow watched, unseen by all but aware of every movement. He could have helped then, but he remained hidden, weighing loyalty, history, and the cost of action. Each second, he knew, might tip the balance between survival and disaster. Little Thunder tugged at Lone Willow's sleeve. "Daddy," he asked, voice soft but questioning. Red Hawk froze, pain and hope clashing inside him. He had not spoken the word aloud in years. Now it came from the child, and it carried the weight of truth. He swallowed hard, voice caught, but he pressed a finger to his lips, signaling patience. Not yet. Not now. The storm intensified. Rain fell harder, lightning cracking above like fire tearing the sky. The path narrowed further, barely wide enough for one person to step at a time. Red Hawk moved carefully, then looked back to see Holt's soldiers attempting to follow. Their shouts angry, frustrated, echoing but slower now. Constrained by the dangerous terrain, Stone Bear whispered, "We can keep them here long enough, but they will find another path if we do not move fast." Red Hawk nodded, feeling the tension squeeze him tighter. Every step forward was a gamble. Every moment was a balance between life and death. Lone Willow's voice broke the silence. "We can make it," she said. "We have to make it." Little Thunder giggled nervously, then held tightly to her arm. "I'm not afraid," he said, though his voice trembled slightly. Red Hawk felt a surge of protectiveness. This boy, his son, was the reason he would risk everything. Every memory of leaving Lone Willow, every battle fought, every step across the frontier all led to this moment. The canyon was alive. The storm was alive. Their fate hung in the balance. Holt finally paused at the base. Realizing that pursuit along this cliff would cost him too much, cut them off. He barked to the men below. "Find another path." Red Hawk pressed forward, guiding Lone Willow and Little Thunder up the last narrow ledge before the cliff curved to a hidden plateau. He did not look back. Every sense was alert, every nerve on edge. The storm, the soldiers, the canyon itself all pressed on them like a living force. The tension stretched taut. Every movement was critical. Every breath could be their last if misstep or miscalculation came. And yet, as Red Hawk led them higher, something shifted. The air became thinner, the rain lighter, and the sounds of the soldiers below grew faint. The cliff was not safe yet. Holt had not given up. The canyon had not yielded. But a thread of hope began to form, fragile and delicate. Like the first light breaking through storm clouds, Red Hawk felt it in his chest, in the beat of his heart against the boy he carried, against the woman who had waited across years of loss and danger. The moment was electric with possibility and threat, balance on the edge of life itself. Ahead lay the plateau, the next turn, the next danger, and the final test of courage and wit. Every step brought them closer to survival and to the truth they all hungered to see. Every shadow could hide threat. Every echo could betray them. The climax loomed just ahead, unformed but inevitable. A storm both inside and outside, ready to break and change everything. The plateau opened before them like a promise. Wide and flat, lined with grasses slick from the rain. Red Hawk exhaled, feeling the tension in his shoulders ease for the first time in days. Little Thunder yawned against Lone Willow's chest, exhausted from fear and adrenaline, but safe for now. The storm had moved on slightly, leaving only mist curling along the edges of the cliffs. Below, the sounds of soldiers grew faint, their pursuit slowed by the treacherous terrain and their own caution. Red Hawk looked at Lone Willow, seeing the determination in her eyes softened by relief. "We made it," he said quietly. His voice was rough, but it carried a weight of triumph and disbelief. She smiled, gripping Little Thunder's small hands tightly. "Yes," she said, voice trembling. "Thanks to you, Red Hawk." He shook his head. "No, this wasn't me alone." He glanced at Stone Bear, who gave a small approving nod. "We all played our part. And that boy, he's more than luck or chance." Little Thunder looked up at Red Hawk, bright eyes searching. "Daddy," he asked again, this time with a hopeful tone rather than fear. Red Hawk knelt and held the boy gently, meeting his gaze. "Yes, Little Thunder, I'm your father." The words, finally spoken aloud, carried the weight of years of absence, regret, and love. Little Thunder smiled, the tension in his tiny body dissolving as he wrapped his arms around Red Hawk's neck. Lone Willow watched, tears running down her cheeks, a mixture of relief and joy. She stepped closer, placing a hand on Red Hawk's shoulder. "We found each other," she said softly. "Against every odds, against every storm. Stone Bear leaned against a nearby rock, staff in hand, a rare smile breaking across his weathered face. "The spirits favor the brave," he said, "but they also favor the true of heart." Red Hawk looked out over the plateau. The land stretched endless before them, a frontier of possibility and freedom. The soldiers would not pursue further today. The cliffs and rain had slowed them, and the Apache warrior had always known how to move faster through the wild than any army. Still, Holt would regroup, but that threat felt smaller now, distant enough to breathe. Black Crow emerged from the shadows of the nearby ridge, stepping onto the plateau. He nodded to Red Hawk, acknowledgement without ceremony. "I followed when I could," he said. "You deserve the chance to finish this your way." Red Hawk's eyes softened. "Thank you, Crow. Your choice. It saved lives today." The storm had cleared almost completely now, leaving behind sunlight breaking through low clouds, painting gold on wet stones and grass. Little Thunder ran a few steps away, laughing at the thrill of open space. Lone Willow watched him with joy, relief softening every line of her face. Red Hawk followed with his eyes, a warmth spreading in his chest he had never thought he would feel again. "I never knew he could bring such light," Lone Willow said, voice gentle, looking at the boy. "Even in the darkest moments," Red Hawk nodded. "He always had it. I just needed to see it." Stone Bear stepped closer to them. "This land is harsh," he said. "It teaches lessons that some never learn. But you three, you learned the most important: family, loyalty, courage." Red Hawk looked at Lone Willow. "We can't undo the past," he said quietly, "but we can protect the future." Lone Willow reached for his hand, gripping it firmly. "Then let's do it together." From below, a distant shout caught their attention. Holt's men had discovered a safer path, but the plateau's elevation and the natural barriers kept them at bay. Iron Holt's voice carried, frustrated and full of anger. "They won't escape forever." Red Hawk straightened, standing tall. "Maybe not," he said quietly, "but today they do." Lone Willow smiled, brushing the wet hair from her face. "We have each other now. That's what matters." The day passed with a cautious peace. Red Hawk, Lone Willow, Little Thunder, Stone Bear, and Black Crow stayed together, watching the horizon, sharing quiet words, and taking the first steps toward rebuilding the life that war and time had tried to steal from them. Little Thunder played near the edge of the plateau, learning balance and courage from every cautious step. Each laugh, each cry, each small triumph reinforced the bond that had been forged in fear and strengthened by survival. As night fell, the fire they built crackled and warmed the damp air. Lone Willow prepared a small meal, while Red Hawk kept watch, eyes sharp, even in the comforting glow. Little Thunder sat between them, eyes wide with wonder as he listened to stories of the land. Stories of Apache warriors, of courage, and of the strength that comes from choosing what is right over what is easy. Red Hawk spoke to Little Thunder quietly. "You carry more than blood in you. You carry the heart of this land, the strength of those who came before you, and the courage to face what comes next." The boy nodded, absorbing every word, understanding more than he could speak. Lone Willow smiled, feeling the weight of the years lift slightly, replaced by the hope of what could be. Black Crow and Stone Bear sat nearby, speaking softly of paths they could take, of how to move forward safely, and of how to protect the family that had emerged from chaos and danger. Even in the quiet moments, every plan, every choice was weighed against the dangers of the frontier. Red Hawk finally allowed himself to sit beside Lone Willow, resting his hand on hers. "We survive storms," he said. "Not just the rain and mud, but the storms in our hearts. Now we can begin to live." Lone Willow leaned her head against his shoulder. "Together," she whispered. "No more running. No more hiding." Little Thunder yawned, finally succumbing to exhaustion, curling into Lone Willow's lap. Red Hawk looked down at his son, heart swelling with protective love and pride. The boy was safe. The boy was home. The night was quiet except for the crackling fire and the gentle sound of wind moving across the plateau. Stars appeared through breaks in the clouds, the first sign that light can always follow darkness. Red Hawk breathed deeply, feeling the weight of the past lift just enough to carry hope forward. Stone Bear finally spoke, his voice low but certain. "This is what we fought for. Not revenge, not fear, but survival and love. You have all found it tonight." Red Hawk nodded, glancing at Lone Willow and Little Thunder. "And we will protect it," he said, "no matter what comes next." From the horizon, faint sounds of movement reminded them that the world beyond the plateau still existed, full of danger and uncertainty. But tonight they had each other. Tonight they were family. And that bond, stronger than any weapon or threat, promised a future worth defending. The fire burned low, but in its glow, Red Hawk, Lone Willow, Little Thunder, Stone Bear, and Black Crow found the peace that comes after trials survived. The kind of peace born not from absence of danger, but from courage and love that endured despite it. The canyon, the cliffs, and the wild land around them had tested them, shaped them, and ultimately returned what had been lost. Red Hawk looked at Little Thunder sleeping peacefully, then at Lone Willow smiling beside him. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. "Yes," Lone Willow agreed. "But it's a beginning with hope, with love, and with truth. And nothing can take that from us." The stars above shone brighter, the fire flickered, and the wind whispered through the canyon like a promise. The frontier was still wild, still unpredictable, but Red Hawk knew that together they could face whatever came. They had survived storms, they had reclaimed their family, and the future, wide and open, lay ahead in that quiet moment. With the boy safe, the mother present, and the warrior standing tall beside them. The past felt distant, and the possibilities endless. The canyon had tested them. The soldiers had chased them. The storms had tried to break them, but none could undo the bonds that had formed. Stronger than fear, stronger than loss, stronger than the wild itself. And as dawn approached, painting the plateau in gold, Red Hawk, Lone Willow, and Little Thunder looked toward the horizon, knowing that their story, though born in danger and mystery, was now filled with hope, love, and the promise of a life finally whole.